Why is shame such a powerful emotion? How does it affect us mentally, physically, emotionally? I'm Nadia Davis. I'm a mom, author, attorney, and Kundalini yoga teacher who has experienced public shaming that brought me to my knees. On this podcast, I'm going to tell you how I'm living the work, taking shame out of the shadows. I'll give you real-life advice and skills to take away with you throughout your day. You'll hear from powerful guests who have overcome trauma and emerged stronger than ever. You too can ban the shame within and around you. Join me. You are not alone. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Home is Within You podcast. I am sitting in my room, and I actually can't see the video right now for a couple of different reasons. So hold on, I'm going to start again. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Home is Within You podcast. This was created after a long, arduous path of unrecognized shame, trauma, and addiction, and a dozen years of hard work to get to a space where I feel safe within myself to reach out for help, to get the help that I need. I know we all deserve a safe space to share, cry, and be vulnerable. And that if you can't find that space outside you, there is a space within that can heal all. I call it home, and here on this podcast, we share stories, tips, insights about how others, particularly those with children, can begin the healing process and begin to end the generational pain that is out there. There is hope. There are spaces where you can get help. And if we are lucky enough to have a physical home, that's great. I'm here to acknowledge that sometimes we have a feeling of separation within us, and we don't really know what it is. I believe that it is shame, and when we recognize shame, we can transform it into power. Today, it is super cool that we have today's guest, LaTisha Bader, from the Women's Recovery Center in Colorado. She's a chief clinical officer there, and does amazing work. And we met after I sent a lot of boxes out to a lot of different recovery centers for women in particular, women and children, and fathers around the nation. And it was like in late last year, I asked the publisher to do that, and it came from my heart because I know when I picked up a woman's story in the corners of a treatment center that I was at, New Directions for Women, it pierced a bubble that I was in, where I felt like no one would possibly understand my story. So reading another woman's story in a memoir, as well as in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, started piercing that bubble. So I sent these books out with that intention in my heart. And a few of them have reached out to me and said, "We got your books." And the Women's Recovery Center in Colorado was one of them. And so now that I have this podcast, it's mind-blowing to have a memoir out in Barnes and Noble. It's mind-blowing to have this podcast through the Mind Body Spirit FM network. But we have to use our stories. And like LaTisha just said in our talk prior to this, when the mess becomes the message. So I am super happy to have her here, and to have had the honor and blessing of sharing my story and have that connected us. How are you, LaTisha?
I am so very well. Thank you so much for the invite.
So she is the chief clinical officer, like I said, for the Women's Recovery Center in Colorado. And her background is extensive. So this conversation can go in a variety of ways. I am very excited to hear how she got into this work, but most of all, how she is adding light to healing spaces, all for many, many women, where she is located. That then leads to other women helping other women, and then those women helping other women, and the world is changing. She has worked in mental health and addiction for over 20 years. She graduated from the University of North Texas in 2007 with a PhD in counseling psychology and a specialization in sports psychology. She completed her postdoctoral fellowship in chemical dependency at the University of Oklahoma Health Sciences Center. So she is a licensed psychologist, addiction counselor, and a certified mental performance consultant, working with elite athletes and teams in addition to the woman that she works with. So I want to ask you, out of all the different work you've done, all the variety of treatment centers you've been in, including residential, outpatient, private practice, Native American healthcare, sports environments, athletic departments, professional teams, um, how did you find yourself now in this multidisciplinary team at the Women's Recovery Center? And just how are your days there and your element? I sense that you are totally in your element.
I am in one of the best places in my life. And you probably couldn't have asked me that before or after this moment. Because if you start reading my biography, my giggle is that it does not sound like a linear path. And so now I'm smiling, knowing I am probably in the exact place to get I, my higher power, right, puts us in places for callings.
Yes.
And as I refer to them, as I understand. And it really is one of the things is all of the tears that were shed in this meandering career journey now only produce smiles most of the time. And so I really do get to have one foot in the treatment world day in and day out because that is my tribe.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the same breath, get to work with high achieving peak performers. Because as you know, literally as I turned the pages in your book, right, is as I was working as a sports psychologist, that was my training. And it's all like, it's the 22-year-old big eyed girl that got into our PhD program. That's literally all I wanted to do. And then when we started to get behind closed doors, talking about how we were managing that day-to-day performance of potentially, I don't know, a sport that you'd play since you were 5, right? Somebody's like, live
Yeah.
your best life, do your best, do your best, do your best, right? As you can start to see the
So were you in
expectations.
sports? Were you
I
athletic?
did. I played my
Okay.
share. I played. What was it? I think I topped out at 13, and
Okay.
between my mother and a budget, I moved down to soccer and volleyball. But I got to play club at college for women's soccer.
Okay, that's interesting though that you navigated then to a field with sports psychology. And
Absolutely.
yeah, that's
Yeah, I
fascinating, and I know a lot of female athletes. The whole what comes to mind is female athletes that are struggling with shame, addiction, and mental health. And I can think of a couple of friends that's where their stuff, their struggles began.
100%.
Right,
And you never what's the you don't know where the which one started which. It's the chicken, the egg, and the farm is kind
right,
of the
right,
joke sometimes.
right.
Because it is the environment, it is the mental health, it is the pressure to perform, it is everything culturally, body, all of it, team, and and I kind of do one of those like toss hair thing is we as women figure out how to cope quickly.
Yes, yes.
And I already got my amen, right? It's like, and peak achieving people figure out how to come back to a peak performance every day.
Right.
And sometimes we don't do it in the most healthy fashion.
Well, none of us do in the first round, right?
Or the second with the joke is for those tough learners, or the third or the fourth, right? Like we get to
Right.
it, but we know what we want to accomplish often. And that was actually how that was my career journey, is that I was in
Mhm.
sports psychology working with those people, peak achievers, and we would get behind closed doors. And man, I was ready to do all of the performance work that I had been trained for, and very excited about doing that. And honestly, about 8 out of 10 people were talking about substance use.
Mhm.
Whether, sub threshold or this, that, and the other, but it was a use of anything. That we have to watch these old videos, and they call it substances like the uppers, downers, and all arounders. And
Mhm.
we were using it, right? Whether it was diet pills or Red Bull or caffeine or cocaine or
Oh,
alcohol,
yeah, mine was
right? Or
energy drink.
cannabis,
Right.
is whatever I needed to use to get me back to perform.
Yeah, I
And
saw
that became
also
pretty
your
apparent.
specialty and that you authored a chapter in evidence-based cannabis in medicine, and
Mhm.
that you serve on a speakers bureau for the Marijuana Impact Group. Um,
I love it. It's what I got to do last week. I get to go to athletes and
Interesting.
teams and just talk about the impact of substance on sport performance, because most of us are not
Fascinating.
scientists of our behaviors, much less of the substance that we put into our bodies. And so that's my other hustle. And I love this, right? Is that I get to keep one foot in recovery and treatment, and jump off a staff meeting, of which I just did. And the next minute I'll get to be in with teams and athletes and peak achieving people.
So So what I am sensing is you're so in your element from this like non-linear, time isn't linear,
Yeah,
right? Not, and it's good, but
it's great
this
now.
non-linear development that you kept following your heart. You kept following where you were being called to, but then it's interesting how our mind immediately goes to this um, kind of self-criticism, like, oh no, if somebody looks at it, they're gonna see like, why she's all over the place. And I mean, my background is very much the same,
Mhm.
but when we get to the truth, right, your truth is that was your path, and your soul was calling you in these things, and it's all whole, it's all complete, and there is no time is not linear, right? Our development is not linear, and you don't let that fear of judgment harm you from being your whole authentic self and presenting, I want to be the chief clinical director here, I'm going to be a speaker here, I'm going to, and just shine. You have that home within you.
I would say, Nadia, as you say, but now, I love it. The people that decorate their homes with the things where they travel, is
Uh-huh.
I say that we are who we are, like because of and in spite of. And so the smiles that you see today are by no means through the tears of a younger version of myself,
Sure.
one that had the same pressure that you speak of so eloquently. Right? Is it if we aren't what our fathers want of us, if we aren't what our communities want of us,
Hmm.
if we aren't doing what we are should or supposed to do, um, those were tough times.
And you
Um,
answered. So I want to ask a question about that. I
sure.
asked, why is shame such a powerful emotion? And you stated because it's all encompassing and often misrepresents itself, especially for women.
Yeah.
So talk about that.
So shame is one of those things, right? Is that we're often, this is like the not to talk about it, right? It's like if you have a feel, especially this one, put it away. Please don't talk about it. I was like, even in graduate school, is we learned rhymey words for feelings if you couldn't remember how to feel, right? Because you could be glad, sad, mad, afraid. And the
Uh-huh.
joke is, I actually got caught by a trainee later on when I was telling them these. And one of the trainees was like, "You're missing one." And I was like,
Uh-huh.
I don't. I don't think so, but go ahead. And she goes, you forgot bad. And I said, glad said. Well, what's
Oh,
bad? I don't know.
interesting.
Is even in the original understanding of the things collectively that we would go through as a human, we did not spend a lot of time, I'll say, in family, right? And then even in training sometimes, really talking about where shame shows up. Um,
That's fascinating.
I
So
know.
mad, sad, glad.
Bad
If you add
and
bad, like I'm feeling bad,
yeah.
how powerful
being
to
being that it's a collective human experience.
yes.
Yes. But again, it was this indicator of that it was an experience probably not comfortable to talk about.
Mhm.
Um, we think about society and sport, and so I put those two populations together, right? So um, cultures are actually the only place where shame is used, right, to collectively shape us. It's
Mhm.
a very effective cultural um,
Tool that
tool. Thank you. I was missing it. It has its purpose, right? But add sport environment to that, and think of then everything that
mhm.
comes with that, right? Comparison of speed, height, body, emotional regulation. It's a place, right, where that's not wanted often.
The thing that I've found on my journey, is that I despise shaming of others struggling, but this isn't a anti-shame podcast, right?
No, it's actually
This
this
is
is
a
a welcome it. Yes.
recognize it, right? And it within you. So stop shaming others. First of all, if you're going to do that, then what's going on in you? And then like you're pointing out, if it is existent in cultures and in certain circles such as the sports circle, then then you know is there awareness of it? Because my spiritual coach, I've learned, and in spiritual learnings, shame serves a purpose.
Yep.
In culture, I don't think it's necessary. It does, but in within ourselves, if we recognize it, we can then use it to our advantage. It's when it's pierced over and over and over again on someone, or repeatedly within their own head, and it separates them from others,
Yes.
and it separates them from their truth, that their true self is whole, divine, and complete, that they're not bad in form, in their soul. So you know um having bad added to that list, and having somebody say back yonder or today, okay, am I glad, sad, mad, or bad? Well, I'm feeling bad, and holding space for that.
Yeah,
What is this coming from? It's a core wound, right? It's this false
absolutely.
belief within us. Um, that's where the power lies, right? I mean, in your experience working in sports medicine and for yourself, where was that turning point?
I it's a lot of the skills that we add to it. I kind of giggle as I like to keep four skills together and rhyme them because it's easier to remember them. But if we, it's a name it to tame it, claim it, reframe it. And if
Love
you
it.
add a Pauladine accent to that, you'll never forget those four put together. But
Those
it
are
really,
great.
and I have to,
Say it
there's
again.
a lot of, there's a
Name
lot of,
it to
name
tame
it
it,
to tame it, claim it, reframe it. Is when, just as you had said,
claim and reframe.
yeah,
Yes.
when you can start to speak it. And so it really was these permission slips, right? Just like you did, right? If somebody modeled, hey, also the discernment between guilt and shame, right, eye-opening for many of us, is that it's okay not to be happy about a performance. Hi, welcome to substance use. Like, let's not be proud of the things that we did, right? Let's actually experience the consequences that go along with it. Natural consequences are, in fact, what make us better. And is that I feel bad, that discernment, right, versus I am bad.
Right.
And if we actually can't talk about it, our emotional intelligence, our emotional acuity is so limited that that's what I say. It manifests so quickly and shows up as all encompassing if you don't understand the nuances of it. Um,
So that is the first step, absolutely. And I believe the second step is understanding, separate from the intellectual, emotional part of it, the function of our mind in survivalist mode versus our soul. Do you see how that's a little bit of a deeper step, and
oh,
how,
that's totally leveling up. Yes.
okay,
Leveling up or digging down, whichever direction
that
you'd
we're
like to
not our
go.
mind, we're not our
Yeah.
thoughts?
No. And that, when I go into it, is that was that part where in my journey, right, is that you'd step or stumble upon this opportunity to actually like get to talk about it. And
Mm-hmm.
then, right,
Yeah.
you're in it and you're treating it. And there was no way that I would have moved forward if I hadn't then gone into trauma work,
Okay.
somatic experiencing, right? Returning a connection back to our bodies. And it really was the part where I'm like, oh my gosh, we are trying to talk like to an amygdala. That is not where this is. It really was. I thank you, Michael Barnes, Dr. Michael Barnes, will laugh on that one. Actually, between being seeped in like some Brene Brown literature and going through a lot of the trauma work that we were doing at our treatment center at the time, that really was I came back for supervision and I said, so I'm trying to talk to an amygdala. And he goes like, yeah. And I was like, well, that's really unintelligent. And he goes, mm-hmm. And I said, so I've been going to school for a really long time, and none of the interventions that I'm doing are really helpful for this person in this moment. He's like, no. So the joke is, after I had my meltdown, I started to ask, so what does communicate to that part of us that is much deeper, that is much soul work, much more somatic body work? And I love that you put it back in, because actually the Native American tribe that I got to work for in Oklahoma, I love me some Citizen Potawatomi Nation. Hello and thank you. Um,
Awesome.
was that first time when they did a check-in. That was our first time in group that we did it in the 4 directions.
Mm-hmm.
And it was mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
We've added a S for social on it at Women's Recovery. We call it the Schmeps. It's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
But I said I had a fantastic colleague that helped me practice checking in for the first time as a spiritual human being. And it was like, oh, I'm tired. And he would stop and go, which kind? And I said, what? And he said, and I quote many times, tired mentally, physically, spiritually, or oh, I did it mental, emotional, physical, or spiritual. And I said, okay, well, okay, emotional. And I said, what does it matter? And he would say with the most empathic smile, and he goes, well, the medicine is different.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. He said, because if you're mentally tired, we do this. If you're emotionally tired, we do this. If you're spiritually tired, giggle, go take a nap, right? If you're spiritually tired, that's a different medicine. And
It's
that,
all chakra energy, right? I mean, yoga was created as a psychological tool involving the whole body.
whole body, a breath and rebalancing versus agitating and returning to state, right? Like
Right.
homeostasis. I giggled. I was in a training, same body based training, and I was like, hey, like, well, how many glasses of wine to 1 hour of yoga? because I was just being sassy in the back of the room, just trying to get any kind of a substance equivalent. And the woman was like, well, I guess 2 to 1, 2 glasses of wine to one. And I looked at her and she goes, but the time that it's going to take you to rebalance your body after you've unbalanced it and like dysregulated it and said so many nasty things to yourself after the yoga class, that's probably much more in the 1 week compared to 1 hour. And I loved her answer for that. And that's often what I think we're trying to do sometimes when we introduce substance, right? Is to either numb a part of us that we can't figure out how to numb, is to try to balance, I say that chemically, right? Some part of us that is louder or not as loud. Um, and when we actually start talking to the spirit and using different interventions, is like that is when we then get a much more holistic approach to treating the concerns. And you has to state the concerns, the wounds, the issues, the energy that don't feel right at the time.
So that's where delivering or designing, delivering, providing compassionate woman's treatment is essential. Where do you think we're at with that in our nation? I mean, I have seen definitely a movement coming from women at the ground level. You know, reinventing programs for different centers. I'm not sure how things are going to change in the new administration, but here in California, um, you know, there's so much effort. I know there, but there's really only a couple of places where women can go with children, and that is where in my book people have noted there's like an advocacy voice about that separation. That is what if I mean the lawyer in me, the attorney in me, like wants to
Yes.
be an advocate for women. So okay, what is your opinion about all of that, and what are you doing magnificently where you're at?
Well, that I would love to tell you that the numbers have drastically improved. And when women's recovery started in 2017, we were the only one in the metro area for Denver, and we were one of only about four in the entire state. And those numbers have not improved that much
For a woman?
for women specific. So we're
Okay.
gender specific programming, all the way up to like a PHP level. Because I was working inpatient and I actually was managing a professionals program. So if you were an
Okay.
attorney, a physician, a pilot, anything, is that you could come into the program that I was working. And I was recognizing about 88% of my energy was going towards men.
Oh,
And
interesting.
so I found that kind of the same as you, relatively disheartening. And there's a ginormous advocate in me as well. And so when Holly Wilson came back into the state and saw the resources that were around, she was the same and wouldn't have anything of it. And so that's how women's recovery got built.
Okay.
But just like you said, with that understanding, because if we're going to do it, we're going to be savvy about
Hmm.
it.
And
And
is
so
it a
we're
nonprofit? You know, how, I mean, we could do a whole episode on the innovative ways of funding and,
right.
right?
It isn't a nonprofit. And you'll notice that because that was a lot of our backgrounds, right? Is that I had worked
Hmm.
in Native American health, I had worked in corrections, I'd actually worked in a maximum security women's prison. I'd
Hmm.
been through all the places and seen where the resources are. And so,
Hmm.
whenever we established this program, it really was to simultaneously, as efficiently and effectively as clinically as we could, to treat mental health concerns, substance use, and trauma at the same time. And it
Wow.
does take additional effort and it does take creative. We use the word savvy from the get go.
Right.
It takes some savvy clinicians that are willing to use that kind of your understanding as well is that that spiritual component, the mental component, emotional, physical, body based, systems based, right? We can't leave
Hmm.
any of the family or the family of choice out of it. We all have to get well together. So that's what we do every day. It's also why I say this
Coordinated, comprehensive service
comprehensive and
delivery
compassionate.
as well as the individualized whole person. I see. That's it. And so say more about the Women's Recovery Center and how we can clone it and put it in other parts of the
No, Joe,
nation.
make more. I was like, please, please make more of us. We plot often to try to take over the world as fast as we can with the quality of care that we're
Uh-huh.
providing. And that is actually what we're doing. We've elevated our levels of care. We are trying to get out and get the message across that there are times that women need to be with women, and we say that.
Mhm.
And I understand the binary, and we say that, so we are welcoming of all female identity
Mhm.
individuals. And it really is that part to say, once we get down to what we're really working on, and most of us that walk into the doors of, I think it's about 72, 74% report previous trauma of all sorts, all the way from
Right.
adverse childhood experiences, assault, neglect, all of the things that would qualify, mental health, and substance use, misuse. And I would say that I'm tired, I think, as much as you are, of waiting for us to get sick or waiting for us to make the front page news
Right.
in order to get well. And so that
Right.
we can do, so that we really focus on early intervention for women
Okay.
as well.
Okay. So what then is the most powerful tool that a woman that is listening to this, that responded to the title Empowered Recovery, home is within you, and is listening, that we want to get out there? I mean, for me, it is that you are not your thoughts. You are not a body, nor the thoughts your mind makes, that you are whole, divine, and complete in your true self, and that there is help out there. But what would you say?
I say that woman walks in the door, and much of the only thing that she needs is a space and a community to foster it.
What if
Um,
she has children?
Oh, get on in there. We'll do the best to put as many resources around her that we can. We have sober living. We cannot welcome to all kinds of the politics that come along with it. We don't house anybody under the age of 18, but man, we are full of resources. So that's our other thing too, for how many times we answer the phone. And if we are not the fit, we put as many resources around the woman and her family as possible. There's Betty Ford Children's, right? Like, we do our absolute best to get the entire
There.
system well.
So do you house both women and children?
We do not. No,
Okay.
in our sober living part, we only house women above 18.
See, that's the thing. It's that family separation that just gets me. It puts women in such a difficult position to get the help that they need, because the thought of leaving your children
And so
is
we smile is in that, for my interruption, I laugh, is that is honestly why I moved from inpatient treatment
right.
down to IOP. So we
Okay.
have figured out, if you have two-leggeds or four-leggeds, right, early intervention and treatment doesn't necessarily have to make that separation.
Right.
So put the four-leggeds and the two-leggeds where you need to take care of them, and then come for IOP, come for treatment during the day. And then
Perfect.
that is why
Yeah.
we sat
IOP
there
treatment during the day.
all the
What?
way into the evening. If
Right.
you work during the day, we have you covered at night. If you work at night, we have you covered during the day. If you have two-leggeds, four-leggeds, a house, a home, no home, name it, is
Right.
that to me is why this level of care in particular
Yes.
um, is one of the best, if not the, um, I would say, most effective intervention, especially for women, for everything that
I
you
believe
were about to
also that early intervention IOP, if that was easily accessible in different places, oh
share.
my gosh, that would make all the difference in the world.
That's why you see
That is what needs to be
that is what
duplicated.
we're doing. And a hybrid version, right? Online as well. We have a center up in Summit, up in the mountains, where if you physically can't get there, right, or for whatever reason, is that you can join that community virtually. And so we have as much as we possibly can, because I'm with you. And I knew that as I was working in inpatient, is how sick we have to be as a woman to get there. We're usually like 6.2 years later to get to
Right.
treatment than male counterparts. And that was one of the things that had me pissed off long enough that I
Right.
wasn't okay with it. And when we
Right.
started to really understand how effective
Right, the woman can stay at home taking care of the kids while the father is out, or and
part,
there's situations where it's the
yeah,
opposite. We're talking just what stats say, but that's wonderful.
we
And
do
how
not
are they
skip it.
coming to you? Are they coming for with themselves after like an arrest or after a doctor's referral? What supports of entry?
We have all ports. And so we are internet based. Like if you were using a phone book back in the day, we work with other treatment centers. We work with OBGYNs, physicians, primary care, psychiatry, like anybody in the
Okay.
medical field. It's kind of like you. If we are a well kept secret, that usually really offends me. So I love that we're trying not to be. And so
Mm-hmm.
we will get in any intervention possible. Other women,
So
right?
ideally, when there isn't a government system or the criminal system involved, this is through the mental health uh,
Yes, that's the portal. Mhm,
fingers that are out there if somebody
mhm.
reaches out for help.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, and I believe that that is out there. And so if you are struggling and you have kids, ask your doctor, ask a friend to to reach out and see, do some research and find an IOP that is out there.
yeah.
If there isn't one in your area, then consider going to where there is one, like Colorado. But if someone had told me early on, that and it was there. I mean, I did inpatient treatment several times, and it was always the worry of the heartbreak of my children, and are they
Mhm.
getting the proper care, are they getting presence from a parent, or and it was and there was so much shame related to that. And if prior to having the system involved, I had come up with some way to go to inpatient, stay with my children, and had that wraparound care and services to beef up the team around me, because I didn't know how to ask for help myself while helping everybody else. It would have made all the difference in the world. And I think emphasizing that for those out there struggling as a model to do is wonderful, for their own lives. Like you deserve to design a treatment plan for yourself
Amen.
if you are out there with children. There and to get, which means I'm going to go and check out IEPs. I'm going to continue my meetings. I'm going to stay sober one day at a time. When I am in pain, I'm going to reach out for help while I am figuring out the financials for this IOP. Like, create those little to-do list steps today, and one task at a time, you will design and begin empowering your recovery and getting to a space where you're going to treatment in the day, picking up your kids from school, continuing that for however long it takes, and then leave,
My
right?
favorite my favorite description is that we have some women that come through with littles, and the way that they describe it is that they're going to mommy university, and
Yeah.
it's my favorite. So whenever their kids are going to kindergarten, as they're asking, "Where are you headed to?" and she's like, "I'm going to
Mommy
mommy
University.
university."
Right. I always say I'm going to class. In the past, I would say that to my meetings. And when I did do a Kaiser IOP, actually, I did do that, and it helped a lot. Kudos to Kaiser being one of the few providers that has addiction treatment department. They
Mhm.
do offer IOP, and yes, So, but anyways, I would say I'm going to class. So yes, mommy university, daddy university, because we need professional help in addition to our 12-step meetings. We need a therapist. We need chronic pain management, which is what I had to do. We need that.
Yes. I say the same as we deserve it. Is that
Yes.
if you're not looking at the entire person, and that is why
Mhm.
we put those plans together, right? Is unresolved trauma is going to be the number one reason that women relapse. You talk about chronic pain and that relationship is that there is only so much a body and mind can manage
Right.
until it needs relief of some sort. And so
There's a
that's if you're not looking at the whole person, we're missing something.
And I share my story of realizing all of that in the memoir, and there is a
You
part
do.
specifically on chronic pain, um, where yes, learning the relationship between body, mind, soul, and what the pain was triggering past trauma, and it's fascinating. So we can be our own, you know, study. We deserve to dive in to everything that we are, body, mind, and spirit, and get the help we need in every area. Now, it's easy to say that. It's easy to provide services. The starting point was building a home that was calm, safe, and nurturing within myself to realize all those things. LaTisha, what do you think is a home within? And do you feel you have one? And how do you maintain that to be aware of how your soul and your mind interact to make LaTisha who she is?
I love that we have at Women's Recovery, we took our group norms because we kept hearing women say this. I was like, I need a safe space. I need a safe space. And we were living in reality of externally, we can't promise a safe space. And so our norms actually have the acronym BRAVE space. And that is how we live. And that is, as you can see, a manifestation of the women that work there is I can't always guarantee that something's not going to happen. And I can guarantee that the boundaries I've put in place for myself, the community that surrounds me of my choice, the community of my choice, right, that supports me, really go back to this compassionate work. I laugh as I work a program, but I WERK it because I have to work it
Uh-huh.
often. Is it wasn't this cerebral decision to say like, okay, if life is going to be sustaining, I'm going to need to participate. And that to me is when you say that this home within really is a home. It's not this house, right, that you put up and you decorate it in. It's fabulous and you put things in it and then you sit there. The home is just that. It's something that you work on every day, something that you make sure is welcoming, something that you make sure is brave and courageous. And then you do a lot to protect it and cultivate it. And so that's when you made that metaphor of it. That's why, honestly, it resonated. And I was one of the first people, hopefully, to call you back
Hmm.
because that is all that we are trying to do is the
Hmm.
safe space outside. Welcome to the things you can't control. But a welcoming place within is, in fact, where the work is at.
And when are we ever told your home is within you? And connecting with that space where we can breathe and have our eyes closed and say, home is within, home is right here. Observe our thoughts and then
Mhm.
invite our soul to talk, that intuition, that heart voice that often are the little one within us, and hear and see that that innocence, that beautiful, like infinitely divine soul that's always there. When we just connect with that for a few moments, we realize our thoughts aren't us. We realize
Amen.
all the stuff outside isn't quote unquote us, right?
I love and to stoke that fire. I think often maybe the message that we were given, I would say, and I say that especially as women, often say that phrase is not to trust it, that it didn't have much worth, that somebody was doing it better, different.
Mm.
And so to me, that's the power that is your message, and hopefully ours as well, is it's already within you.
Mm-hmm.
It is our job to seek it and find it and support it and love it. And that's the work I think that we get to do every day, is finding that relationship with that part within us.
So the brave, the courage is that,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
There's courage in doing things outside us, and there's that
Definitely.
courage to sit with us, with ourselves, and say, well,
Mm-hmm.
where is and what is my true self? Where does this come from?
Mm-hmm.
And that voice will speak. It's there. It talks all the time to us. Um, okay, so you said also play your favorite song, feel the energy of the song, and just try to sit grounded, beginning with your root chakra, breathing. Consider your favorite song. I ask all guests, what is your favorite song and why? And that true self, that voice will speak to you. Trust me. You said Mercy by the Dave Matthews Band, LaTisha. And you said that it came at a time when I needed to hear a message that we weren't going to give up as a collective. And it also has a pretty snappy beat. Okay, so when you think of that song, Mercy, who is LaTisha? How does it help you?
It actually gets rid of all the thoughts of
Hmm.
the judgment, of the critical part. The irony is the song's pretty awesome and the video is even better. It's a collective of listeners that sent in videos. And so that is the representation of the song, is it's the people that listen to the song, not the man that wrote it,
Hmm.
as well as the band. And it really was one of the times is that something small,
Hmm.
mercy, like of all the thoughts
Uh,
that are flying through your head, the next act, the next right thing, if you will, is to just offer that little bit of grace and space. With that small act, we will be different.
for others and ourselves.
Mhm.
That mercy is that grace, that compassion, the powerful collective. How
That's
awesome.
And I say that, Nadia, that was me making it through your book as well, as you showed that as when you're home, it spills out into your family, it spills out into your community, and it's a cup that overflows. It doesn't take all of your energy to give to others. When you're home, you're every bit of you is able to come out without draining the woman. And that was to me my message that I got from your message, your turned message. And so that's what I appreciated, why I wanted to just come back and say the same thing to you, is thanks for putting those words on paper, because it shows when you are filling yourself up how much more there is for you and your community and your family and your sons. I helped teach a class for physicians, and one of the statistics that we looked up was the impact of one physician, like on a community. And they'll say the statistic, I would love to quote it, but it's so old, is that somewhere around one physician would impact about 400,000 people in their career. And I always kind of smirk at the end, and the facilitator asked, and I was like, well, I would be curious what one healthy woman does for her entire lifetime. And I could imagine that it would need exponential math to work. And so it was always one of the things is that if we get well, we not only affect the community that we're in now,
Mhm.
but the generations to come.
And if one woman that is in her element, transforming her wounds into this healing power like you have,
Mm-hmm.
and designing, delivering, providing these compassionate, comprehensive services for women, imagine measuring that.
I have been heard in staff meetings that I hope we get to like McDonald's numbers, for it's like the served 1,462 cheeseburgers. Like I would love to know how many people's lives have been positively touched by the work. So,
That's awesome. The power of the collective,
mhm.
yes, is that power within us. And today, as a woman who was separated from my children, not once, not twice, 3 times, I can say today that that home within and that home that anybody out there that's listening can build spills so much over into our children. And my son the other day, just last weekend, uh, told me with his hands on my shoulders, he literally said, "I forgive you, Mommy." And he had been reading a part of the book where I was talking to my father's soul when he was separated from his mom, asking, what should be said to them? I need to know because I'm worried about their heartbreak. And that was when that past, present, and future beautiful moment that when we are listening, right, to our higher power,
Yeah.
happens. And we never know if our healing helps our children. We see it, we watch it, and we're able to hold space for them. But when he said that, it was like full circle moment. And so I'm here to say we can recover. Our children benefit from it. And it becomes an all empowering home for everyone. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience. And all it takes is taking that first step, making that first call, and reaching out for help from that home within you. So I can talk to you forever, LaTisha,
Yeah,
and I
me too.
think I want to have you again to talk about sports medicine,
Oh, it'd be an honor.
recovery. Um, and thank you so much for leading the way, for providing treatment that's compassionate, that's holistic, that's from the frame of mind of somebody out there struggling. And it's designed literally from the ground up. It's awesome what you are doing. And I think it should be duplicated in so many places and everywhere. And you are part of that collective movement, for change. So thank you for the work you do,
Absolutely.
for transforming your journey into this work in your element today. It's really beautiful to see. So
Thank you
thank
so much. I'm down for the cloning. We'll figure that one out.
yes, we will. The two of us, you better watch out. We will. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You are not alone. If you are dealing with shame and trauma, please reach out to me through my website, nadia-davis.com. You can get a free Ban Shame tip sheet and find out about upcoming events. I'd love it if you picked up my book, Home is Within You, wherever books are sold. If you like this podcast, please tell a friend, leave a review, and make sure to follow me on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Sending warm hugs.